murder of a little girl has haunted America, where she was taken from her bed on Christmas night, taken down these stairs to a basement and tortured. Where she was taken from her bed on Christmas night. She was taken from her bed on...
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. What's wrong with this picture? Look closer. JonBenet's pillow is missing. Where is it? Well, it's downstairs on the kitchen table. Although it does seem to move around. When we talk about evidence in the JonBenet Ramsey case, the ransom note tends to get the lion's share of attention, do you agree? And then the flashlight gets a few scraps. But we almost never see analysis of the pillow, JonBenet's pillow. The pillow is an enigma, no doubt about it. John Ramsey actually made specific reference to it in his 1997 interview. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button and let's get started. So if we go to that 1997 interview, Lou Smith says, if you see something that you don't understand or something that looks out of place, we'll take notes of this. So he's specifically asking John Ramsey to suggest, to volunteer something that to him is strange, unusual. And John Ramsey's response is, that is. And Lou says, he's pointing to photograph 2. John Ramsey says, this photograph 2 is her bed. I don't know where her pillow is. I mean the pillow on her bed. Lou Smith says, how about the pillow? John Ramsey, well, if it's a pillow, it should. Lou Smith says, is that normally like that? John Ramsey, probably, I just don't remember it. Might have been. It matches the sheet, and I don't know why it would be at the end of the bed. Kids slept on pillows at the head of the bed. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a child and we shared beds, you would often have a pillow at the foot and a pillow at the head, and you would sleep head to toe. And so that seems to be quite normal. Isn't that something that you did? Anyway, Patsy Ramsey mentioned the word pillow 22 times in her 1998 interview. She concurred with John that there was something out of place, something unusual about there not being a pillow where there should have been one. Trip DeMuth says, what about the pillow at the foot of the bed? Is that? Patsy Ramsey says, no. Thomas Haney, did she use a pillow? Some people do, some don't. Patsy Ramsey, no, she did. Trip DeMuth, I mean, the way the sweater is thrown at the foot of the bed is not unusual, right? Patsy Ramsey, no. Trip DeMuth, she would have done that? Patsy Ramsey, right. Trip DeMuth, did she ever put a pillow at the foot of the bed? Would that be usual or unusual? Patsy Ramsey, that would be unusual. Now, I think there are a few alternatives to why the pillow is where it is. The first is that JonBenet got up in the night, as small children are wont to do, and went downstairs and into the kitchen with it. Do you think that is what happened? In other words, it is because of JonBenet that the pillow is there. The second option is that Gary Oliver, or whomever is intruder of the month these days, he decided to kidnap JonBenet and her pillow. Kidnapped JonBenet and her pillow from the bedroom, but got sidetracked by some Christmas cake in the kitchen. Do you think that's what happened? The third scenario is that the pillow is staged. Gary Oliver, or whomever is the intruder of the month, didn't kidnap JonBenet and the pillow. Also, JonBenet didn't take the pillow down there, and so somebody else did. It's staged. Staging, as we know, is misdirection and manipulation intended to try to exert control on or influence one's impression or perception of a scene. In my opinion, many experts who have tried to analyze this case struggle with the level or the degree of staging. Some see the garrote as post-mortem staging. I don't. I think that's taking the staging to unnecessary and unlikely extremes. Meanwhile, others see the ransom note as the real thing, which in my view is pretty ludicrous. In my opinion, the level of staging in the Ramsey case is very high, and this may or may not have something to do with the staging that is par for the course in pageants. Pageantry and staging is, of course, virtually the same thing. In order to figure out the purpose of the pillow on the kitchen counter and how it got there, we need to see it in context. What is also out of place on the kitchen counter or nearby? Answer, the flashlight. And the ransom note, which is just around the corner. One possibility is that Gary Oliver or whomever is the intruder of the month decided to kidnap JonBenet from her bed, brought her pillow down with him, and then forgot the pillow, forgot the flashlight, and left the ransom note in the kitchen, and left JonBenet in the basement. If you think about that seriously, the pillow doesn't really make any sense in an intruder scenario where JonBenet is taken from her bed.
It doesn't make any sense. Any fucking sense.
Now, the reason I played that clip at the beginning is that there's this assumption that JonBenet was taken from her bed. JonBenet was taken from her bed. What if she wasn't taken from her bed? What if she was never in bed? What if she was not in her bedroom? Does that bed look slept in? What if the pillow was never in her bed either? What if her pillow was in another bed? Another possibility for why JonBenet's pillow is on the kitchen counter along with the flashlight and the ransom note just around the corner is to lure investigators and cops deliberately into this part of the house.
Now, why would he want to do that?
Remember, regardless of who put her there, there's a dead body in the house, in the basement, and by hook or by crook, somehow the cops are unable to find JonBenet's little body until John himself finds it. So isn't it possible that the pillow is meant to draw attention not only to the kitchen, like the flashlight and the ransom note, but also away from the bedrooms and the basement? If that's true, then someone took the pillow down from JonBenet's bedroom, placed it on the kitchen counter, and perhaps placed the flashlight there as well. It's because the flashlight stands out as an obvious murder weapon that I don't believe it is the murder weapon, but there are others who do. Now I'm quoting from the words of Jim Clemente, an ex-FBI supervisory special agent. These are his words. One of the most startling revelations to me and significant revelations turned out to be the presence of a pillow in the kitchen on the countertop. I didn't realize it when I had seen the crime scene photos, but that pillow was missing from JonBenet's bedroom. Had we not reconstructed the bedroom and the kitchen exactly as it had been in the crime scene videos, I wouldn't have been able to put two and two together that somehow JonBenet's pillow came from upstairs on her bed to downstairs in the kitchen, and that connection would become very significant to me in terms of reconstructing this crime scene, in terms of trying to put together the movement of the people in that family. Well, now because of the pillow on the kitchen counter, Clemente imagined precisely what you would imagine, that JonBenet gets up in the middle of the night, goes downstairs with a pillow, and is murdered right there in the kitchen. Look, there's the murder weapon. To me, that is a little simplistic. And also, I'm not convinced that JonBenet did go to bed, that JonBenet did sleep in that bed. Does that bed look slept in? Now let's go to what Detective Steve Thomas said regarding the pillow. He said, "Then we showed him photos of the crime scene. Wait," Lee said. "The pillow in the kitchen in this picture doesn't show up in that way. Why?" His eyebrows rose in wonder when he learned how things had been moved and how many people had trampled through the place before the photographers took their pictures. What he was viewing was not necessarily how things looked on the day of the murder. Lee said nothing but made a note. Now, if you think the pillow isn't a big deal, well, things get even shakier when you ask the obvious follow-up question. Okay, so her pillow isn't there on her bed. Well, what else isn't there? Well, JonBenet's white blanket, of course. Guess where that is? JonBenet's body was covered with a white blanket from her bed, and so this raises the question, was her pillow and her blanket taken from her bed downstairs? Was it taken to the kitchen? Was it taken to the basement? Did JonBenet take it or somebody else? How come her blanket ends up in the basement? And do you really think Gary Oliva would have taken the blanket as well from her bed and carried it into the basement? We will continue this investigation in the next episode, in the next analysis in this series. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.